Hello YouTube, welcome back to a brand new video. This is the America First Pill channel. So, it's a beautiful day here in Wisconsin. It's nice, finally, probably the nicest weather in a long time so I'm actually out here doing my video today. So you guys know why the change of scenery. So, but I just want to discuss a little bit about Steven Crowder. I kind of want to explain because I've been kind of critical the way he covers Tucker Carlson specifically, and more just he and just things to be aware of. People have tried to say to me to have some discernment. Well, I'm gonna throw it right back and suggest be careful on why you should, not take some things Crowder, that Steven Crowder says with a grain of salt as well, because here's the thing, he's really good. Like, to me, I didn't really know much about him. Again, a good friend of mine is actually what got me into him and introduced me to him. So, he's pretty funny, like in debate season, because he has his drinking party when they answer, in every session. So they're kind of funny there, and then you have their the ability to kind of make silly politics funny, because without it you just get mad. So he kind of neutralizes it to make it somewhat of a sense of humor. So I get it, and he does do pretty good at covering truthful information that the mainstream media won't cover. So I do consider Tucker somewhat like what a local media is supposed to be. Unfortunately, the local media is almost as bad as the national media, but in regards to covering, things that we deserve to know, like the truth that the media won't cover. So I do like that about Steven Crowder, and do believe he's, for the most part, very truthful. But at least for the most part, and I haven't gotten vibes that he intends to spread disinformation. Tucker, I don't think he does either. But I'm a little annoyed with Steven Crowder lately, and the reason I'm using him as an example is because he's also pretty popular among the conservative base, among that podcasting. And Crowder, definitely, his audience is definitely more of what you would call a Tea Party and a more mainstream MAGA audience. Definitely more male. If you look at what he talks about, he's definitely a more male audience than again, he does have some females too, but for sure males. Not a politically correct guy at all, and so definitely if you're not a thick-skinned person, he's definitely not for you. But why I get upset got a little annoyed with him lately is because he represents, because in my past videos I've kind of talked about my annoyance with the podcasting culture lately on YouTube and the internet, on the media, and how as the mainstream media is losing popularity, people are going more towards podcasting, and definitely the more right-wing leaning on podcasting is definitely more on the right. And you have a lot of them, and that's good. We need more alternative media because the mainstream media isn't working, and I still prefer alternative media, independent media, over what we have now in the mainstream, because they shill for the deep state. So YouTube, Rumble has some good stuff as well, but Crowder definitely, because what you're seeing is and Crowder's been really, how can I say it, very critical of some voices on the right, and particularly Tucker Carlson has been one. He's been critical of Alex Jones, Candace Owens especially, and also even Megyn Kelly. And I think largely he's been kind of going after the right, that he sees them as black pillars and sees more black pilling, and sees them more demoralizing the right rather than going after the left. And that's been a big part of his criticism, and for different reasons. And so he kind of lumps them together because he sees them as dividing the right, which is why he often includes Tucker in that. Now, here's what you could argue. You could argue Tucker's not I've already said this before, and I argue again, Tucker, I don't even need to argue anymore. I mean, because Tucker's not really you could say a mainstream or traditional conservative, what in the language we're used to hearing. And to me, that's okay, because you kind of have to, in order to win elections, especially in what we have today, you kind of have to, you can't, even the Tea Party version is not what it isn't going to win against a Marxist leftist. It's just not. You need a form of populism, and that's what wins. And it's something I don't think Crowder really understands. Crowder he's knowledgeable on economics. He's knowledgeable on a lot of issues. I definitely don't know if I trust him as much on foreign policy, just because I don't think he's a guy that's been around the block that much. I think I'm not saying he's never been out of the country. I'm pretty sure he has, but it's just in regards to Tucker, I definitely trust Tucker more on foreign policy and his more clear integrity on Israel. That's just me. But what I've noticed, and the thing that caught my eye, is that Crowder seems to be pandering to the audience of the Trump loyalists. And now, I'm not saying that Crowder's never criticized Trump before, but he seems to be kind of pandering to the MAGA base that just seems to want to defend Trump at every turn, and he'll go after the podcasters that are not always going in line with Trump, and that seems to be something I have had an issue with. Now, I have a huge problem with the people who wish Trump to fail, who constantly have nothing good to say about Trump. And I've dealt with it for almost 10 years now. It's always doom and gloom, thinking their life is over. Even after, when Trump leaves, they're still going to, find a way to blame him for everything. I mean, so that's, just thing I've had. But I've also been kind of overwhelmed and kind of fatigued lately with a lot of the Trump loyalists, the people who are kind of the ride and die Trump. And if you don't, if you criticize Trump at all, you are not part of MAGA, and you're not, you really aren't America first, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying Crowder has been like that, but he seems to have that audience, some of that audience that believes like that. And, and what really caught my eye was, Tucker Carlson had an interview with New York Times. And, I thought, if you watch the interview all the way through, I thought it was pretty solid interview, though, pretty solid interview. I think Tucker was able to kind of talk about some things that I thought, okay, interesting, but definitely, he was definitely pressed pretty hard. So he may have been a lot more unprepared than he realized if you looked. But what I'm upset with Crowder on right now is you notice how the thing he wanted to talk about with Tucker in the interview was when he criticized Trump, kind of using the unhinged remark that he's the Antichrist. I mean, obviously, no, Trump's not the Antichrist. I mean, that's let's be honest, people think the Antichrist is everyone they don't like, and the whole thing is getting annoying to me. But no, Trump's not the Antichrist. But obviously, I remember in one of his videos, Crowder showed that clip. It was around Easter time, Tucker kind of, hinted, could it possibly be the Antichrist? Now that I could argue it definitely was more for clicks, a click type of a question to gain our attention, and it was all because Trump's, his, I would say, definitely cringe photo of, kind of putting himself as Jesus healing the man. Now, he claimed to be a doctor. I forgot what he claimed to say he was, but anyway, it caused some outrage, and also kind of that unhinged tweet, that kind of troll tweet that he made about Iran, where it sounded like not praising Allah, but like mocking Islam. And then, Tucker was like, how dare you mock Christianity, and how dare you mock Islam? Any religion you mock, kind of saying that if you doing so makes yourself a god. And that was kind of what the content of that clip that Crowder was showing. And I could agree it was, kind of a cringe thing, because then if you look at the interview there, he was asked, Tucker seemed to play kind of dumb, like, oh, did I say that? I don't say that. I mean, either Tucker forgot that he asked that, or he tried to play dumb about it, which people think he's playing dumb because he did say that. So, and then he walks back to say, oh, well, I don't really understand it. Well, probably not the best to talk about something you don't understand. I mean, he claimed, he said he's a Christian. Well, if you don't understand that, then I guess don't say things that seems to imply that you're calling Trump the Antichrist. Now, I didn't remember that. He says that Trump never put his hand on the Bible when in his inauguration, which I don't remember that, actually, which it is kind of strange, I'll be honest with you. Why would Trump not do that? I mean, I don't know. That, I'm not really going to get into that right now, but it's just, Crowder was definitely that loyalist, and you notice he only shows clips when he disagrees with Tucker, and you could argue maybe it's valid right now because the stuff they're talking about lately they do disagree on, especially when it comes to this conflict with Iran right now. I guess there's the agree to disagree there, but you noticed he only comments on Tucker when it involves him not being in line with Donald Trump. It just seems that way. And, it's just like people really don't, some people in the conservative movement really don't understand that we need to start preparing and moving on from Trump. We need to not move on from MAGA, but we need to move on from Trump and start looking at the future of who's going to take the mantle of what Trump started. In a lot of ways, I think it needs to go to the right of where it's at now. I think you kind of have to, the way the left is moving far left. But I think in a lot of ways Trump has done a lot of great things in regards to exposing, but I think we need to move further right where we are. And I don't know who that's going to be. I don't really want to be speculating too much on who's going to be the next president right now, because let's be honest, we need to get through midterms first. Okay? I don't think Vance is going to run if the midterms go way south. Because let's be honest, and right now, I think Rubio would probably be the nominee if Vance doesn't run, just because there's a lot of pressure to get him to run. But let's be honest, Rubio, in my opinion, is kind of a puppet. I think he's not as bad as the neocon establishment, but he definitely is a lot more controllable. And I think you'll end up being very disappointed and stuff. So I don't know. They're speculating about getting Tucker to run, but I think that's largely a online push. I don't think Tucker's going to run. There's, at this point, I feel like if Tucker really thinks Trump is doing such a bad job right now, then, I mean, why, maybe Tucker should just shut up and run and then make your case be known, but I don't know. So with that being said, I don't think that's going to happen. I think even if Tucker ran and somehow got the nomination, it could potentially split the primary, in the sense that it's split because there's a lot of Republicans that don't trust him right now. And, he has a lot to explain, in my opinion. And I just think he kind of ticks too many people off right now. I think he's ticking. The left still hate him. If you think the left loves him, you're not paying attention. And the right now, it's kind of upsetting because of what he's been doing. So I don't know. Tucker's interesting, but but with that, so I just think Crowder's coverage there, though, only kind of showing that clip of just Tucker kind of, when he went after Trump, it just seems to me, what is Crowder's intention? For those who listen, what's his intention? Truth, or is he trying to get you angry? Because he's trying to virtue signal to the Trump supporters, people who love Trump. And I think Crowder definitely is not what I would call a big tent. If you notice, Crowder, he definitely seems to be more pickier on who you let in the movement, definitely who you lead in the movement. He really, you saw how he was with Julian Michaels. You're not a conservative, which I agree, she is not. She's too liberal on a lot of issues that where I can't really consider a conservative, and definitely shouldn't lead it. But but then Tucker either. He doesn't think Tucker's really a conservative because in his eyes, Tucker's a little too inconsistent for him. He flip-flops. He was this 7 years ago. Now he's this. Now he's that. I agree, which is, I don't know. But it's weird to me how Crowder was so friendly to Nick Fuentes, and they seem to agree on quite a bit. Now, do I think they disagreed on some core issues? Of course. I think that's kind of a given, but you notice how they're nice to him, Gerald, to Crowder, and I forgot that other guy he has, and that has conversations when they're doing their coverage. But it just, but they're just such a snob to Tucker, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because he didn't interview with them, and I guess they can't really respect someone who just won't debate. Now, is Tucker a little bit narrow-minded? He kind of picks where he's going to be, who he's going to go tough at, or who he's going to be, who he goes to, because he's too rigid on the foreign policy question. I can agree. I think he is, but right now, I don't really think the conflict we're seeing right now is really. I don't think Tucker has really any reason to really change his mind right now. I mean, gas is over $4 right now. I mean, and so yeah, I don't. The Strait of Hormuz is not even, which I know that was the big part of that. That's not even being accomplished the way Trump is wanting it to be. So this is turning more into an endless war the more this goes on. So, so I guess until, this ends, why should Tucker or think otherwise, that this isn't good for America? I don't know, maybe, but I don't know. So I just thought I'd cover that. But I think, be careful with some of I call them the Trump cultists. I don't like to use that term because I think it comes from the left a lot, but they do exist. A lot of it's online, and they do try to make you feel bad for criticizing Trump. And I feel like the way Crowder, the way he tried to use that one clip, I don't know. I don't really understand it to me, and it's kind of, it really frustrates me, I guess, because I feel like he's just, I feel like it's not Crowder himself, but it feels like it's just part of that faction on the right that's trying to draw a wedge between the Republican base. So, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say here, but that's kind of what I wanted to cover. And, I hope the party can unite on common. Tucker did say I did watch that whole interview, so I'd encourage you to go watch it and then really decide for yourself, because I really think Crowder does a lot of times try to decide for you on what to think. In my opinion, the way he, especially that's for any of them when they're trying to, when they use video clips of what they're trying to use as an example to quote what someone said. To me, that's not very trustworthy, because you can't really make an opinion off of a small clip of that interview. So I don't know. So, but we need to unite on the common issues, and I don't know. Right now, I'm more concerned about my state of Wisconsin right now. We have the communists leading the Democratic Party right now. I mean, Wisconsin could go communist. I don't think Wisconsinites can even really understand what is happening right now. So, if I'm a little desperate, it's probably because I want to win elections. I'm sick of wondering, what every election, why did we lose this election? I hope people like Crowder can understand why we lose elections. I don't think he understands. He understands how crazy the left is, but he doesn't really do the best job of giving conservatives often enough ideas on how we win, because we have to embrace populism to win. That's just it, and it's the only way it's going to beat the left. So, and I think that's why I listen to Tucker, because he's a populist, and you need that voice to win. You need that voice of coalition. Trying to say, trying to discredit how popular he is. I mean, I saw that graph that he referenced. I mean, I don't know how accurate that really is. Numbers seemed a little bit weird, but I mean, it doesn't change the fact that Tucker is very popular. So, I mean, Tucker gets a lot of views, and actually gets more views than Crowder does. So, I just, not saying Crowder isn't popular. It's not taking shots at anybody. I'm just saying, I mean, Tucker's very influential. So even if he doesn't have the mainstream base right now, he definitely has the base you need to win, the coalition you need to actually win elections. So Crowder needs to really be careful, not to be insulting those listeners, or else it could cause them to just not vote, or it might push them to the left. A lot of these people like Tucker walked away from. I mean, Tucker was a libertarian, but he really walked away from the left because of how crazy they were. And right now, if we keep attacking them, we might push them to the left, and that would be disastrous for this country to have that happen. I mean, I think right now there's people that keep pushing Tucker's buttons, and if it upsets him enough that he decides to run to give the finger to the GOP, he might. I don't think he will. I think he cares about his popularity a little bit more than that, than wanting to become the most hated person ever. But I'm just saying that the way people go after him, they're pushing buttons. So I'd be really careful with that. So anyway, I just thought I'd let you guys know my thoughts on that. Crowder's good, but I don't really think he's being really fair on that. And I hope you guys have some discernment on that, and so anyway, if you like this video, let me know what you all think, and if you like this channel, please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. America First Pill channel out.